Welcome in, everybody. Ready to dive deep.
Always ready to dive in.
This time, we're taking on Jim Simons and Renaissance technologies,
Which is?
basically Wall Street, but add a dose of serious math brilliance and a sprinkle of, get this, code breaking.
Intriguing combo.
Right. And our guide for all this is The Man Who Solved the Market.
Not your typical Wall Street read. It cracks open the life of this guy, Jim Simons, who went from math whiz to, like, Cold War code breaker.
And
Then decided to conquer Wall Street. With math, no less.
So not your average Joe, this Simons guy.
Not even close. What's fascinating is he pulled off what many thought impossible, beating the market consistently for decades.
Decades. Okay, now I see why we're diving into this.
And he did it all by going against, like, every Wall Street norm. The book starts with Simons as this total math prodigy.
Oh yeah, the story about him driving his dad nuts with that theory about car fuel never running out.
Exactly. It shows how his brain ticked even back then. Always got to find the pattern, apply logic to everything.
So this drive for logic leads him to
MIT, of course. But don't picture him just buried in equations. We're talking wild adventures, too. Like almost getting caught in a Mexican mob while on a scooter trip.
Wait, hold up, scooter trip. This future Wall Street titan.
Yeah, apparently they mistook Simons and his buddies for some biker gang. Leather jackets, loud scooter. You get the picture.
I'm picturing it. So what happened?
Luckily, police intervened before things got ugly. But it shows this other side to him, not just the math brain, but someone up for an adventure.
And then from almost getting mobbed, he goes to breaking codes for the IDA during the Cold War.
The guy was deciphering patterns for the government, honing his skills in a way that, little did he know, would totally change the game on Wall Street later.
But even code breaking wasn't enough.
It's like he needed bigger and bigger puzzles, and where better than Wall Street for the ultimate challenge, right?
Not exactly the typical career path for, well, anyone, let alone a math genius.
You said it, but Simons had this hunch. What if you could use math to predict the market? Forget gut feelings, find the patterns hidden in all that data.
And that's where Renaissance technologies enters the scene.
Bingo. Simons goes and creates this dream team of, well, brilliant, but kind of eccentric minds, like Lenny Baum, another code breaker, obsessed with something called Markov chains. Imagine predicting a baseball game, not from the whole thing, just the current play.
So looking for that current play in the stock market.
Precisely. But it wasn't just about number crunching. Simons brings in Ellen Burlekamp, too, a game theory genius who actually found the game Dots and Boxes intellectually stimulating.
Wait, the kids' game?
Yep. He believed every game, even something that simple, had these hidden layers of strategy and thinking. It was all about spotting what others missed.
And all this is happening in the early 80s, right? When computers were basically dinosaurs compared to now.
Tell me about it. But Simon saw the potential. He was convinced that with the right algorithms, enough data, they could make a system more accurate than any human trader. Light years ahead of his time.
So they've got the vision, the team, the tech. Were they just printing money at that point?
Not so fast. The book doesn't sugarcoat it. They had setbacks, big ones. Almost went bankrupt at one point.
Wow. So it wasn't an overnight success story by any means? What kept them going, especially with such a radical approach?
Simons's belief never wavered. He was convinced that traditional investing, relying on emotion, gut feelings, it was flawed. A data-driven approach, that was the key, even when everyone thought he was crazy.
So this unwavering faith in the power of math, it eventually, pays off.
Big time. Their medallion fund, that's where they cracked the code. The returns were insane, the kind most people only dream about.
And that's when things get even more, mysterious.
Totally. Renaissance, it's like they became this secretive Wall Street version of Area 51. Employees couldn't even discuss work with their spouses. I mean, come on.
That's some next-level secrecy.
But that's how valuable their algorithms were. They were the heart of the operation. Years of research, refinement, all built into these lines of code. Simons was protecting his secret weapon, for sure.
And these algorithms, they weren't exactly simple stuff.
Right. No way. We're talking mind-boggling math. Stochastic differential equations. I mean, ever heard of that?
Can't say I have.
Me neither. But these guys were using them to analyze mountains of data, spotting those tiny advantages that everyone else missed. The book even mentions a rule they had. Champagne only if the returns hit 3% in a single day.
Talk about high rollers.
That's the kind of success they were having. But the book doesn't shy away from the downsides either. This intensity, it took its toll. Rivalries, clashes, even accusations of sabotage, it wasn't all champagne and roses.
Sounds like a pressure cooker.
You can say that again. It took a certain kind of person to not just survive, but thrive there. The book talks about Sandor Strauss, the original data guru who joined Simons early on. He was worried about getting tenure at his university. Can you believe that?
Sounds like he found a different kind of security.
Financial security, for sure. This guy, Strauss, he had a knack for collecting data even before they knew what to do with it all. Built this massive database of price info, including intraday tick data, every tiny price change throughout the day. Most investors weren't even looking at that back then.
Talk about being ahead of the curve.
Light years ahead. And as computers got more powerful, all that data Strauss had collected, pure gold. It's what allowed Renaissance to analyze the market with insane precision. No human could compete.
It was like they had X-ray vision for the markets.
Exactly. And then you've got James Axe, another brilliant but more traditional mathematician.
So we've got Strauss, the data guy, and now Axe, the more, like, pure math whiz.
You got it. But here's the thing. Axe, he was skeptical of relying solely on computers, believed in human intuition, gut feeling, all that.
Oh, I bet that created some friction.
You kidding? Total clash of styles. Axe eventually sold his part of the company back to Simons. It just shows, even with crazy smart people, finding that balance, it's not always easy.
Fascinating. And then there's Elwyn Berlekamp, our dots and boxes champion, who took game theory from the board game to beating the market.
Right. Berlekamp, he's like the embodiment of that out-of-the-box thinking that Simons loved, seeing patterns, connections where no one else did.
But how do you even go from dots and boxes to Wall Street?
Berlekamp believed every game, even something simple, held deeper strategic insights. In the market, he was all about short-term trading, capitalizing on those tiny windows of opportunity, brought a vital dose of discipline, risk management, especially in those early days when things were, let's just say, a little chaotic.
So he was instrumental in refining their approach,
Yeah.
making Medallion the success story it became.
For sure. And the book really highlights that, this mix of personalities, each pushing the limits of what was possible. It wasn't just about the math. It was about how these different minds that came together.
It's wild how they drew inspiration from all over, like Edward Thorpe, the guy who used math to beat casinos at blackjack.
Thorpe's work was legendary. Created a card counting system that gave him an edge, then applied similar ideas to the stock market. Huge inspiration for Simons and those early quants.
Proof that math could find the cracks in even the most complex systems.
Exactly.
But let's be real, the book doesn't sugarcoat things. Renaissance had this almost mythical reputation. Secretive, intense. But behind the scenes, it wasn't all equations and breakthroughs.
Not by a long shot. We're talking high pressure, rivalries, even accusations of sabotage being thrown around. People worked crazy hours, driven by the potential for life-changing money.
That kind of secrecy, the pressure cooker environment, gotta wonder what it did to people.
Right, and the book does touch upon those personal costs. The intensity was unreal. But there's also this allure, this intellectual challenge of cracking a code that had stumped Wall Street for so long.
So they build this system, this well-oiled money-making machine. But as the algorithms get more and more complex, did anyone even understand how they worked anymore?
That's the million-dollar question. The book talks about their evolution from simpler models to incorporating things like machine learning, constantly pushing the boundaries.
It's like they were creating something beyond even their own understanding.
In a way, yes. And that's where the risk comes in. What happens when an algorithm makes a decision no one can explain? What happens when these black boxes start driving the market? It's a debate that's still raging today.
It's like opening Pandora's box. You unleash this power, but can you control it?
Exactly. And the book doesn't pretend to have the answers. It lays out the facts. The incredible wins, the internal tensions, the bigger questions their story raises.
We also get glimpses into Simon's personal life, which wasn't always smooth sailing. The tragic death of his son, for instance.
It's a reminder that even amidst extraordinary success, life can throw curveballs. The book shows how he dealt with that loss, finding solace in his work and eventually philanthropy. It's a side of him we rarely hear about.
It adds a layer of humanity to this Wall Street titan. Even geniuses experience loss and have to find a way forward.
Absolutely. The book doesn't just chronicle financial strategies. It gives us a window into Simon's world.
Yeah.
The highs, the lows, the triumphs, the tragedies. It's all there.
And speaking of tragedies, We can't talk about Simon's later years without addressing, well, the elephant in the room.
Robert Mercer.
Yeah, Robert Mercer, the guy who becomes co-CEO of Renaissance.
Hmm.
But his story, it's like it veers off Wall Street and heads straight into, well, the political jungle.
Talk about a plot twist. Mercer's involvement with, let's just say, right-wing politics and all that support for Donald Trump's campaign, it really shook things up.
Yeah, the book paints Mercer as this brilliant but seriously private computer scientist, poured millions into conservative causes.
Which put him at odds with Simons, big time. I mean, Simons is known for his more, shall we say, liberal leanings.
A recipe for friction, right there in the C-suite.
You said it. It caused a real rift in the company. Some employees even wanted Mercer out, said his political activities were giving Renaissance a bad name.
So what'd Simons do in this situation? Stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Exactly. And it wasn't just Robert Mercer himself. His daughter, Rebecca, she became a major player in conservative circles too, shaping Trump's campaign. The book doesn't shy away from the whole saga, the controversy it all brought to Renaissance.
So how did it all shake out?
Well, Simons eventually distanced himself from Mercer, and Mercer ended up stepping down as co-CEO. But the whole thing definitely left its mark on the company. It raised these questions about wealth, personal beliefs, in a place that was supposed to be all about logic and algorithms.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even in that world of math and models, human choices, they have consequences.
No doubt. It's messy, no easy answers, but the book lays it all out there, lets you form your own opinion.
So we've covered a ton of ground here. For someone picking up The Man Who Solved the Market for the first time, what's the one thing you hope they walk away with?
Honestly, this book, it's bigger than just Wall Street. It's about ambition, about risking it all, and challenging the way things are supposed to be. It's about pushing boundaries, whether that's through math, tech, or just sheer willpower.
Simon's story makes you think, too. How far is too far? Can brilliance go too far, especially when you're talking about something as powerful as the financial markets?
Now that's a question, right? And the debate's still going strong. But The Man Who Solved the Market, it pulls back the curtain on Renaissance technologies, gives you the info to decide for yourself.
It's one wild ride through the world of high finance, that's for sure. But it's also deeply human, this story. You see Simons' genius, his flaws, his wins, his losses.
Because even in a world obsessed with numbers, it's the human element that makes it all so captivating.
Couldn't agree more. Well, thanks for diving deep with us today, everyone. And if you're ready to explore the mind-blowing world of Jim Simons and Renaissance technologies, definitely check out The Man Who Solved the Market.
It'll make you question everything you thought you knew about Wall Street, about technology, and the brilliant, sometimes flawed minds behind it all.